I want to talk about some things that we can do when we have a falling stock market to preserve or even grow our portfolios. Hey guys, it's March 4th of 2025 and the markets have sort of been taking a downturn for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I want to take a look at them and I want to talk about some things that we can do when we have a falling stock market to preserve or even grow our portfolios. So first let's start with the S&P 500, the Dow and the Nasdaq to see how the markets have been moving. And like we said, for the last 3 weeks, we've been seeing the markets fall, particularly hearing talk about tariffs and with some of the other things that have been going on. When we look at the Dow, we see 2 weeks ago it dropped. Last week it was a slight rise, but then this week dropping again, and we're only halfway through the week. And with the NASDAQ, 3 straight weeks, and once again, we're only partly through the week. So having said that, we're going to look at a couple of, well, I should say a few opportunities in the market or potential opportunities. But before we jump into that, when we're having a bull market, things are moving up, everybody is buying, buying, buying. There's lots of opportunities. But when the market goes down, a lot of people take a lot of unnecessary losses. I want to talk in this video about two things that could be done so that your losses are not quite as bad. And the first thing I want to talk about is, did you know that there's a way of making money in the stock market when stocks are dropping? There actually is. But first of all, before we get into that, you have a lot of people who have retirement, maybe they have 401ks or different retirement like that. Their money may be sitting in a mutual fund or mutual funds. Mine would always be in the SPY or S&P 500. When I was in that world, I had mutual funds in my retirement. But at a time like this, when things are dropping, you can preserve your capital simply by moving it aside out of the mutual fund, keep it in cash until things stop dropping, because there's no way to make money when things are going down in that type of situation. However, for those of you who are out there investing and you just have a regular brokerage account, or maybe you want to, did you know that there is a way to make money when the market is going down? And that way is that if we go to the extreme, we can look at the stocks that are at their annual high price, their highest price of the year. And when we see those stocks start to drop, we can actually buy them. We can buy what's called an option on them. But the option that you want to buy is not a call. A call is what you buy when you expect a stock to move up. and when it moves up, you make money. You can buy what's called a put. A put is what you buy when you expect a stock to drop. And when that stock is dropping, you're making money. Now, this app, which is called Putmaster, it shows you all the stocks on that day that are currently at their annual high price, and then you can filter the list down even more to find the stocks that are fundamentally unsound, meaning weak. They're not the stronger stocks, they're the weaker stocks. And you can actually buy a put on them so that when they're dropping in value, your put is actually increasing in value. You're making money. And you can go to the website that's listed to subscribe to this app. It's either $129 a year or $14 a month. Another thing that you can do, and once we finish up these two, I'm going to show you a bunch of stocks that you can potentially place those puts on. But another thing you can do is if I click here, it takes me to another app called StockSage. Also $14 a month, $129 a year. What does StockSage do? StockSage shows you all the fundamentally sound stocks that are at their annual low price. Which is a lot of stocks right now. And then you can get stronger and stronger, fundamentally stronger stocks. 5 years of stock buybacks, strong balance sheets. Notice the list is a little shorter now. Not much, but a little shorter. Then I could say, show me stocks that have greater than a 10% profit margin for the last 5 years. That list is a little shorter yet. What about show me the stocks that have a profit margin less than 20%? And now that list has really narrowed down. It was just showing us one now. And lastly, I have a filter for high dividend yields, greater than 4%, which is still a long list, greater than 10%, which is, we have about 8 stocks here. And greater than 20%. We have a few there. So StockSage gives us the opportunity in times like this, where a lot of stocks are dropping to their 52-week low. It gives us the opportunity to find the cream of the crop of stocks and buy them when they're at their low price. I remember around a year or two after the COVID lockdowns when I was researching stocks. And when I research stocks, I always look at the 5 year history. And when I was researching stocks, I was seeing the price of these stocks back in 2020 during COVID lockdowns. And I was saying, man, I wish I could have bought this back then. Look at how cheap it was. Well, this is a time where we're going to be saying that same thing after we get out of this mess that we're in here. We're going to be wishing we had taken advantage of these opportunities back then, but we didn't. But if we do take advantage of those opportunities, one will be able to buy very cheap stocks compared to what they would normally cost. And two, if we're using Putmaster, we'll be able to preserve our portfolios by not only holding on to the stocks that we have, but by buying puts, which are growing in value while our portfolio is going down, which is sort of keeping things even or even profitable, even growing. My portfolio has been growing, even though I hold around 1,300 stocks in my portfolio, which are going down. But the puts that me and my wife are buying is what's keeping our portfolio floating and growing. And we're increasing those puts every time. So, having said that, let's jump back to our candlestick charts and take a look at just a few of the stocks that Putmaster has presented to us as possible opportunities for buying a put. So we're going to look at a few potential puts. And remember, guys, what we're looking at here is we're looking at this candlestick chart. It's not a daily, it's a weekly chart, which means every candle represents a week, right? So we're looking at our first company is Coastal Financial Corporation. Notice it's steadily been moving up. For this first week, we're seeing a red week. It's starting to move down, but this is actually not a full week. We're only 2 days into the week, and we see a sizable red candle. The question is it going to complete this week, then go into a new red candle next week? If it does, that may be an opportunity to jump into this for a put. Then we have LPL Financial. It's a more expensive stock, $336. It was moving in a sideways motion for a few weeks. But these first 2 days of this week has presented a lengthy bear or down candle. We want to see what happens the rest of the week, what it does going into next week, but that could be an opportunity. We have AT&T. Now this is a less expensive company. $26.22. I really don't like dealing with the smaller companies in stock price when dealing with puts, but you could take a look at it and see what it presents. In any event, It had been moving up, but now we're seeing a big red candle. Well, I shouldn't say, but moderately big red candle. We want to see what it does the rest of this week and moving into next week. We have 3M Company. This really hasn't started to drop yet. Formed a big red candle, but it can go back up next week. It can go sideways. We want to see if it continues to move down going into the next week. We have Banco Latino Americano, and same thing, we're seeing the big red, well, I should say a moderately big red candle form in these first 2 days. We want to see if it continues to drop going into next week. We have RTX Corporation, $128 stock, same thing. Is it going to continue to drop this week and drop going into next week? A lot of these stocks, I want to look at them for at least 2 weeks or at least 1 week and then partially into the second week before deciding to jump in. We have Bank of New York Mellon, $85 stock. First 2 days, we see a decent red candle forming. What is it doing going into next week? Is it going to continue to drop? We have Live Nation. Now, this stock has already dropped for, I could say 3 weeks, or I could say 2.5. Is it going to continue? Or is it going to drop a few weeks, turn up again? Not sure how much longer it's going to keep going because we already see it down for 2 weeks. We have Starbucks. We see a sizable red candle here for 2 days. We want to see what happens as it completes the week and goes into next week. We have OGE Energy. Once again, moved up. I would say it moved up 6 of the last 7 weeks. Then we see this red candle. Is that just a pause and it keeps moving up like here? Or is it going to start moving sideways or go down? We have AbbVie. We see a small red candle here, but notice the long tail here. So the question is it going to continue to go down next week? Willis Towers. And with this, is it just going sideways like it had these few weeks, or is it going to keep moving up or go down? CME Group, same as the other previous. We see a small red candle with a long tail, well, sort of long. So we want to see if it's starting to move down next week. We also see stochastic pointing down. So we want to see if it moves down next week. We have Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. This was going sideways, gave sort of a red week here, and we want to see if it continues to drop. Personally, I hope it does because I actually own a put on this one, and I'm up to around 30% so far, but I'm hoping it continues to drop. And I've only owned it for about 2 days now. We have Abbott Laboratories. Once again, a small red candle, but a long tail. So is it going to move down? Let's see what happens. We have Regency Centers. Now this candle is green, but once again we see the long tail at the top, so we want to see if it moves down after this. We have Mid-America Apartment Communities. Same pattern, long tail at the top. We want to see if it starts going down. We have iRhythm, IRTC, and the same thing. Decent red candle here, and here's another one forming. And this one, I hope it continues to drop because I have this one too. Only around 6% so far, and it's only been it for a couple of days. We have Paychex Inc. Once again, small green candle, but we see the long tail at the top. We want to see if it continues to drop. So that's it for our watch list, guys, but just wanted to go through with you the fact that even in a down market, there are opportunities to make money and to preserve money if you know how to handle yourself in the markets. In any event, um, we'll be keep tuned in for other videos where I show you what things you can do in this market. And I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Have a great night.